Okay, yes, and we're carrying on with the topic of hobbies and pastimes. Now we're going to be looking at reading. So for our learning journey, you'll be able to understand key details about reading and extract adaptive phrases from two different texts. We will look at native structures, different versions of them, and how to form them. And then finally, you'll be able to describe your own reading habits, including another tense. And you'll be doing this either by a recorded piece or you can do it as a writing. So for this lesson you will need a pen, paper and a stopwatch, and you'll be asked to pause at certain times in order to complete the tasks. So if you can écrire la date, copy le titre, which is La Lecture. As you can see, you've got a text from Valentin talking about his reading habits. What I'd like you to do is to answer the 6 questions on the right hand side, and then if you finish within the allotted time of 7 minutes, you can then edit, adapt and improve that paragraph in order to discuss your own reading habits. So set your timer to 7 minutes, pause the video and off you go. For this first reading activity, you can see you've got 3 people, Leopold, Miriam and Soraya, talking about their reading habits. I would like you to complete the 6 phrases on the left hand side with the correct English. Each person has at least one use of a negative structure in there, so I'd like you to, for each person, find one negative structure, copy it and translate it into English. And then if you finish that within the allotted time of 10 minutes, I would like you to try and create a generic rule on how to form negative structures. I've put a few keywords that you could use in your rule, which are verb, between and no, and try and create a rule within that. So please set your time to 10 minutes, pause this video and off you go. Negative structures are used prominently within exams. You need to be able to form them yourself within your writing exams, but also you need to be able to spot them within your listening and reading exams because they are used regularly as a way to trip you up. In English, negative sentences include words like don't, haven't or didn't, but these sort of words don't exist in French. You need to be able to spot that these are examples of negative verbs and use whatever the structure is in order to translate what you want to say in French. So in this, we're going to look at the various negative structures, 6 of them. We're going to look at how to form them, and then you'll have a chance to practice with them at the end. So these are 6 negative structures. You will have seen ne pas before, for example with je n'aime pas, which is one of the earliest phrases that you learned, and the other 6, some of the phrases might be a bit familiar to you, some of them won't be. I want you to pause this recording, give yourself about 20 seconds just to have a look at them and try and work out what the meanings are before we go through them. Okay, let's go through meanings. So we've got meaning with ne pas, which is not. We've got ne rien, which is nothing. We've got ne jamais, which is never. We've got ne que, which is only. We've got ne plus, which is no more or not any longer. And finally, we've got ne personne, which is nobody or not anybody. I want you to really pay attention to the fact that the negative structures are made of 2 parts. So you've got the ne, which is consistently used, and then you've got the negative structure, the second part, which determines which is the actual meaning. It's really important that you look at the 2 structures and that they have a gap in the middle. There are other negative structures, but we're going to focus on these 6, as these are the 6 that the exam will expect you to be able to form and to recognise within your examinations. So the 2 parts go around the conjugated verb. A conjugated verb just means a verb which has a person and a tense. So an infinitive is the root of the verb, for example, aller. And then if you have je vais is the conjugated verb because you've got the je, which is I, the subject pronoun, and then vais is in the present tense because it means go. So if you take a simple sentence here, such as je fume, I need to be able to grammatically spot which 2 parts they are. So you've got je, which is the subject pronoun, and then fume, which is the conjugated verb in this sentence here, as you can see there. So the sentence je fume means I smoke. So I want to think about the negative structures that we went through before, the 6 of them, and which one that I want to use. So for my example, I'm going to say I do not smoke, okay, or I not smoke, because there isn't a do in this word here, your sentence. So I think of my negative structure, which is ne pas, and I want to build around my conjugate verb. So where the ellipses were in the examples, I want to put fume in there. So this will then look like this, ne fume pas. So I've got my conjugated verb in the middle, my ne before it, and my pas after it. So I've built around the conjugated verb. I then need to add my detail, of course, which is je. and je ne fume pas is my complete sentence. So that has gone from je fume, I smoke, to now je ne fume pas, which is I do not smoke. Just be careful when forming, okay, in that you always build around the conjugated verb. It's very important. Of course, some things to be aware of, because as you know in French there isn't an exact science. So we have a sentence here, j'ai un vélo, which means I have a bike. Now if you want to add a negative structure, again we follow the same process of spotting a conjugated verb. In that case that is a here, okay, that is means have, and that is a conjugated verb, so the ai. So same process before. If you want to bring in a negative structure, we need to build around it. So build around that conjugated verb, that is. So we have a conjugated verb which is a, and then we put an ne before it, but that should be ringing alarm bells in your head, which doesn't look quite right. So as you know, the French don't like two vowels together generally, therefore they changed the ne to n apostrophe. So your final product would be like that. The reason they do this is to make it flow better when speaking. So instead of je ne ai, it's just je n'ai, which sounds and flows a lot better. Therefore, our final sentence, if you wanted to change from j'ai un vélo, I have a bike, to I don't have a bike, would be je n'ai pas de vélo. Again, you should be looking at that sentence that you can see now at the bottom and thinking something has changed there. And you are correct in that the de has replaced the un. So the reason being is that after pas, so the ne pas negative structure, after the pas, the article used becomes de instead of un or une. Therefore, you don't need to worry about whether your noun was masculine or feminine when using ne pas, it just changed to de. However, le, la, and les don't change. Je n'aime pas le rugby doesn't become je n'aime pas de rugby, it just stays the same, je n'aime pas le rugby. So here are just a few things you need to be aware of when forming negative structures, and you need to be aware of this when you get to the practice stage. Once you get confident with negative structures, you'll be able to apply them with sentences with two verbs, for example with the past perfect tense or the near future tense. So if we look at the past perfect first, we need to spot in our sentence which is the auxiliary or first verb. That's the key aspect, and that is the one that we therefore build around with our negative structure. So if you have an exemplar sentence of je suis allé à Paris, which is I went to Paris, I look at my sentence and I need to spot which one is the first or the auxiliary verb, and in this case we can quite clearly see it's suis. So again, we need to build around this verb. So I want to say, in my example, I never went to Paris. So I look at my list of negative structures, and ne jamais is never. I then build around that suis, which is the first verb, and it looks like ne suis jamais, and then I add my details around it, and it becomes je ne suis jamais allé à Paris, which is now I never went to Paris. With the near future, it's slightly simpler because you've only got one conjugated verb, and the second verb is in the infinitive form. However, just as an example, I've got je vais faire mes devoirs here, and that is I'm going to do my homework. As I said, you've only got one conjugated verb, which is vais. Therefore, I need to build around that verb. So if I want to say I'm not going to do my homework, again, I look at my list of negative structures, and I've got ne pas. I then need to build around vais, because that's my first and only conjugated verb in this sentence. Therefore, the full sentence of I'm not going to do my homework in French would be je ne vais pas faire mes devoirs, which looks like that. So that's negative structures explained. Just rewind the video and pause if there's anything you were confused with or need extra help with. We're now going to do some practice with 3 different tasks in order for you to become stronger and more confident with your use of negative structures. Now that you've had the explanation and some examples of how to form negatives, it's now your turn to practice. So as you can see, there are 3 tasks, green, orange and red. I'd like you to, for the green task, translate the 8 sentences into English. For the orange task, you've got 8 jumbled sentences, so you need to unjumble the sentences to make the sentences make sense, so put them in the right order. And then for the red task, your task is to translate the 6 sentences into French from English. In terms of presentation, I'd like you to write the colour of the activity that you're doing, and then just the answer. You do not need to copy out the original sentence. However, you do need to write the colour so that I can differentiate in terms of which activity that you have done. So set your time to 12 minutes, pause this video and off you go. We're now going to move on to a more advanced text on the topic of reading. As you can see, there are 4 people, Leopold, Miriam, Veronique and Jean-Pierre, talking about their past reading habits, what they read now, and their opinions on either or both of those aspects. I would like you to complete the table in the bottom left-hand corner, where for each person you write in English keywords what their past reading habits were, what they are reading now, and their opinions. If you finish within the allotted time of 12 minutes, I would then like you to find those 5 phrases in the purple box, where you write them down in English and then you find the French from one of the texts. So pause this video, set your time to 12 minutes and complete the task. Thank you. Your final task is to discuss your own views on reading. Now, you can either write this out as a paragraph or you can record yourself saying your piece, but either way, the passage or the recording needs to be submitted onto class charts. So within your discussion, I would like you to talk about what you're reading now and in what format, plus opinions. I would like some of you to be able to talk about what you used to read when you were younger, and I would like some of you also to be able to compare the reading habits of yourself and your parents or grandparents. Again, as with any French piece of writing, it does not have to be the truth. It just has to make sense in French. For this task, you're going to have 15 minutes, so pause the video, set your time to 15 minutes, and good luck. Okay, Year 10, that is the end of the lesson. Thank you for completing the lesson. Make sure that all the work listed below is uploaded and submitted onto class charts. So that includes your starter, which is the reading by Valentine, the completed phrases in English and negatives for the 3 people, your 3 negative structure exercises, your completed table in English by Leopold, plus the 5 phrases in English, and then finally your writing or recording on your thoughts about reading. Thank you. Bye.